Hello everyone, welcome to Easy Economics. How are you all doing? I hope you all are doing good. Today I've got for you all October November 2024 0455 variant 21. We'll be doing section A data response question today. So let's dive quickly into the paper. First, we'll read the data source and we'll highlight the key terms and the key information so that once we are solving the questions, it's relatively easier for us to navigate through our answers. All right. The source material they've given us this time is regarding UAE. First, they've given us a fact file. There's a table which gives us different statistics for year 2021. They talk about the population, which was 10 million. Foreign nationals living in the UAE that time were around 8.9 million. The number of people unemployed were 0.2 million. Economic growth rate hovered around 3.8%. Now, they're saying foreign nationals living in the UAE are usually greater than the number of citizens of the UAE. That means the people who are living in UAE, they are more of foreign nationals rather than their own citizens. So that's a very crucial piece of information they've shared with us. Next, they say that labor mobility between the UAE and other countries is high. That means it's easier for the labor force to move. That means geographical mobility is quite high. And the ease and the support that UAE provides, for example, by way of daily flights, landing in the UAE from India and Pakistan, that's a major factor that actually invites people and encourages them to go and opt for jobs offered in the UAE. So geographical mobility, the barrier is being eradicated this way. UAE was the host of the World Expo in 2021-2022, where countries from all over the world demonstrated their economic achievements, increased connection of people through migration, the trade of goods and services, and the sharing of ideas were the major features of the World Expo. Another common theme that was presented in the World Expo was the technological progress, which has improved global living standards. Technological development has increased both the quality and the quantity of factors in the UAE. Now, what they are saying is they are saying that there are signs of globalization in the UAE. How? By way of migration, by way of how the ideas are shared, by way of the trade in goods and services, and by way of technological progress. It has paved way for globalization. That means what? That the world becomes one market, right? What was globalization? That the world has become a one market, right? A global village. And technological development is one of the major factors that has increased both the quality and the quantity of factors of production. That means the PPC curve, because of the technological advancement, because of technological improvement, the PPC curve has shifted outwards. The country has experienced an increase in its productive capacity. You see, whatever the information they've given us in the data source, you need to read between the lines. You need to understand the piece of information that is hidden in those lines, and then you need to make inferences accordingly. So now once you're talking about the quality and the quantity of the factors of production, immediately what should come into your mind? What economic concept should come into your mind? PPC. So see, now you must be at a stage where you need to develop those links, those inferences from the key source. All right. Let's look at the third paragraph. The third paragraph states this technological progress was supported by a huge amount of finance gained from their oil production and exports of oil. So how was the UAE able to invest or bring in technological advancement? Where did it get the funds from? What was the source of funds? So it was the oil production and therefore exports of oil. Oil is a necessity, and its price inelasticity of demand has brought both advantages and disadvantages to the economy. Now, we all know that oil is a necessity, right? It is being demanded by countries and for fuel, and it's a prime input, a factor of production for the production processes, right? So it is what? It is inelastic in nature, right? It's a necessity. However, it has brought both advantages and disadvantages. How? Because if you look at now, what they're given is the percentage changes in the oil price and the annual percentage change in the UAE's balance in the current account. what they've given us this graph, and what they have done is from 2016 to 2022, they have shown the percentage change in the price of oil, and simultaneously they've also given the percentage change in the UAE's balance on the current account. So now what they're trying to show is that how has the percentage change in the price of oil brought or affected changes in the current account balance. So now if you look at the graph, the vertical axis displays the percentage change, the horizontal axis displays the year. Now if you look closely, as the percentage change, which is not the dotted line is giving you, the solid line shows the price of oil, and the dotted line is giving the percentage change in the current account balance. So now if you see, wherever there's a peak in the price of oil, there's also a peak in the current account balance. And whenever the percentage changes try to dip, the same happened to the current account balance. So it's what? Showing a direct relationship, showing a positive relationship. Whenever the percentage change was positive, there was also a positive percentage change in the current account balance. Whenever the percentage change was negative, again, it was also followed by a negative change in the current account balance. Now remember, it's a percentage change. They are not absolute values, right? Yes, below zero, it's falling, right? But as long as it's above zero, it's a percentage change, right? It's not negative. All right. Now they're saying Dubai is one of the cities in the UAE. It is not dependent on oil, as 95% of its economy is non-oil based. Now, one of its countries of the UAE is Dubai. However, they have making an important key information over here, which they shared is they're saying that 90%, 95% of its economy is non-oil based. So that means what? It is known for its luxury tourism and financial services. That means financial services and tourism is what is driving Dubai. The rest of the UAE might be dependent upon oil for its exports and its production, contrary to Dubai. In Dubai, it's the opposite scenario. 95% of its economy is non-oil based. That means only 5% is dependent upon oil. The rest 95% is funded by financial services and tourism, right? And we can all recall a number of recreational facilities and places found in Dubai, right? Which affect employment, tax revenues, and export revenues. So that means financial services and tourism are a major chunk of the provision of tax revenues, employment level, and export revenues. However, there are concerns over sustainable water in the desert and the level of inequality in the distribution of income. But then again, the drawbacks are that water availability is a big question mark because it's a desert, mind it, and the inequality that is being brought in the distribution of income level. Despite rapid changes in the economy, the value of the domestic currency, the dirham, has always been stable as the government has maintained a fixed exchange rate since 1980. This has helped investor confidence in the economy. That's a positive fact. However, a fixed rate exchange system affects the government's ability to deliver other macroeconomic objectives. Now, they're saying that the government has been using a fixed exchange rate system, though it has boosted investor confidence because it brings in certainty. It has mitigated fluctuations which are present in a floating exchange rate, right? Fixed exchange rate means you know that the exchange rate is pegged, right? It's pegged, it's fixed. It remains within a certain parameter, right? Whenever the changes are there, the government always intervenes through its monetary policy and brings it back to its the defined level, right? But then the drawback, which they have highlighted, is that it would hamper the government in achieving other of its macroeconomic aims. So far, so good. All right, let's jump to the questions. Now, see, the question, before the questions are there, what have they said over here is refer to the source material in your answer. So this means in each of these parts, you need to refer to the data that is available in the question. All right, the first part says calculate the percentage change of the population who were foreign nationals living in the UAE. So now you need to calculate the percentage of the people who had come from abroad, who are not UAE citizens. All right, Now look at the right-hand side. I'll zoom it in for you so that you can have a clear view of the working. I'll scroll in from where I got the data. All right, so it's from the very first table. Percentage change of the population who are foreign nationals. So in the numerator, you will include the foreign national figures. You will divide it by the total population. All right, not the number of people employed, but by the total population. So 8.9 divided by 10 million into 100. Why 100? Because you're calculating the percentage and you'll get 89%. So 89% of the population were foreign nationals living in the UAE. Get it? All right. Part B. Part B says it's a 1-mark question. Was it a 1-mark question? Yes. You mentioned that, you got a mark. Part B. Part B says identify 2 features of globalization. And it is a 2-mark question. Now, before answering this question, can we recall what was globalization? Yes. By definition, globalization is the process by which the world is becoming increasingly interconnected. How? Through trade and better links. That means that the world becomes one market. Now, you need to identify. So, you just need to pick out the relevant details which are highlighting the fact that there exist signs of globalization. So, if you look at paragraph 2, remember we read it earlier. So, I have mentioned 3. You can pick out any 2. So, here it says the increased connection of people through migration, the trade of goods and services, right? And the sharing of ideas. So these are all signs of globalization. Pick any 2, write them down, and you're good to go and you'll get straight 2 marks. All right. Part C. Part C says explain one factor that affects labor mobility between countries. Right? One factor that affects labor mobility between countries. Now, it's a 2-mark question. I mentioned 2 points. You can choose any one. Identification of a point will give you 1 mark, and explanation of that will give you another mark. So that means this is how the marks are distributed. So if I say the availability of many daily flights, remember they said in the very first paragraph here that the availability of many daily flights landing in the UAE is promoting labor mobility, right? That means if there are many daily flights available from the UAE, from India or Pakistan to the UAE, what is it enabling? It is enabling faster, easier, and promoting more convenient. It's making it more convenient for the labor to move between countries. And as a result, it's easier for the labor to relocate and commute internationally, right? It's also reducing the travel time and also further reducing the cost, thereby reducing the barriers towards employment, right? Or helping the employees to go and look for jobs in the international arena as well. Or you could say technological progress is also one factor that is promoting labor mobility or reducing the barriers such as which were caused by geographical mobility, or reducing geographical immobility, right? People would be more looking for remote work without relocating, maybe by way of online jobs. Or it could be that since technological progress is available, it would attract more and more skilled workers. So people who are looking for skilled jobs would be inclined towards moving or relocating to places in UAE, right? They would be opting for jobs out there. Or if technological progress availability is there, they could also opt for jobs which allow remote work, right? Without even relocating. So pick any one, expand on your answer, and you get easy 2 marks. Part D, moving forward. Part D says explain one advantage and one disadvantage of producing a price inelastic product such as oil. Now, it's a 4-mark question. So how are you going to distribute the marks? 1 mark is for the advantage, identification. 1 mark is for its explanation. The 3rd mark is for identification of the disadvantage, and explanation of the disadvantage would give you the final 4th mark. Now, We all know that oil is a price inelastic product. That means what? Whatever changes might happen to the price, it would be followed by a little lesser percentage change in the demand, right? So it's why? Because it's a necessity, right? So advantage would be that if price changes, quantity demanded does not falls with the same percentage or with the same proportion. So what happens if price changes? Quantity demanded does not fall. So as a result, the revenue is going to increase. Why? Because oil price inelastic. It's a necessity. So no matter the price is rising, but there will be little or no fall in the quantity demanded. What would be the disadvantage? If price falls, quantity demanded would not increase by the same percentage or the same proportion. As a result, the revenue would fall. Right? So remember, whenever a good has a price inelastic demand, it's always wise to increase the price if you are looking for options to increase your revenue. Because if you are reducing the price, it would give a fall in your revenue. Remember? All right. So you've identified the advantage, explained it. You've identified the disadvantage, explained it, full 4 marks. Moving on. Part E. Explain the relationship between the oil price and the UAE's current account balance. It's a 4 mark question. For this, we'll refer to the graph. Remember, I told you that there exists a direct relationship. How? Because if you look closely at the diagram, I'll zoom in it for you. Whenever the percentage change was increasing, again, there was a positive impact on the current account balance. They are both moving in the same direction. Wherever there's a peak also in the current account balance, the percentage change. And whenever the percentage change started to reduce, the same was followed in the current account balance as well. And you can also see that it was the lowest in 2020. So the percentage change in the price of oil was lowest in 2020. In fact, it was even below zero, right? So the same was followed in the current account balance as well. Here. So how will you go about answering this question? It's a 4 mark question. So the key to answer this question is first you will identify what type of relationship exists. A direct and a positive relationship. That's what we've all found. So first you'll say that there exists a direct or a positive relationship between what two variables are we discussing? We are discussing the percentage change in the price of oil and the UAE's current account balance, right? So there exists a direct or a positive relationship between the annual percentage change in price of oil and UAE's balance on current account of balance of payment. You've mentioned that, 1 mark. Now you'll expand on it. When the percentage change in price of oil rose, so did the percentage change in the current account balance. And vice versa. When the percentage change in the price of oil fell, so did the percentage change in the current account balance. Get it? Now you will support this statement of yours with a relevant detail. You'll support it with evidence. For instance, from 2016 to 2018, both were increasing. What? The percentage change in the price of oil and the percentage change in the UAE's balance on the current account. You can see from 2016 to 2018, see, both were rising, right? And both were lowest in 2020. And you can see that the peaks are being observed at the same time in both the variables, right? So mention any one or any two of these evidences and you're good to go. Finally, you will say this is because demand for oil is price inelastic. The increase in the change in price in oil prices rose the current account balance. So whenever there was an increase in the price changes in the prices of oil, so the current account balance also rose, right? Because the export revenue rose. So the percentage change whenever there was increase in the price, the current account improved, right? This is the reason. Why? Because the demand is price inelastic. So you've mentioned all these 4 points in this way and you'll get full 4 marks. All right, moving on. Part F. Part F says analyze using a PPC the effect of technological progress on UAE. Now we all know it's a 5-mark question. How have they distributed this? 4 marks are allocated towards the correct construction of the PPC and 1 mark is for the written statement or the analysis. How full 4 marks can you get in this question? 1 mark for the correct axis, the vertical and the horizontal. 1 mark for the drawing of the correct initial PPC, the production possibility curve. 1 mark for showing the shift towards the right. The final mark for the arrows, displaying the shift of the PPC towards the right. And you'll explain what happened to the PPC by way of a written statement. You'll get the final 5th mark. This is how full 5 marks can be awarded. It's an extremely easy part. 5 easy marks are being awarded to you. How? Technological progress would take place. So obviously, the PPC curve has to shift outwards. So now see how I have drawn. First, you label the vertical axis capital goods, horizontal axis consumer goods. 1 mark. You draw this initial PPC curve, right? The second mark. Then you show the PPC curve moving outwards, the 3rd mark. Then you will display these arrows indicating a shift towards the right for 4 marks. And the final 5th mark of this written statement that you'll write that technological progress will increase the productive potential of the economy, enabling the UAE to produce more high quality goods. More high quality goods and services. More and high quality goods. So not only the quantity, yet the quality of the goods and services is also going to be improved. Why? Because of technological progress. Get it? You've done that for 5 marks. All right. Moving forward. Part G. Now this is a discussed question. It's a 6-mark question. Again, I have told you several times that whenever there's a discussed question, you need to identify the key terms and present both the sides in using chain and link analysis, a balanced argument followed by a conclusion, right? At least 4 points for each side, followed by a reasonable conclusion and a justification. So now, what does part G ask? Discuss whether or not luxury tourism and financial services have helped Dubai achieve economic development. Now, you've got to tell me whether luxury tourism and financial services have been fruitful for Dubai in promoting development. If you say yes, tell me why. Or if you say no, that luxury tourism and financial services have not been that fruitful in promoting economic development in Dubai, tell me why not. Right? Then conclude it with a reasonable statement. So if you say yes, financial services and tourism have promoted economic development, we can say that tourism and financial services have promoted employment level. And why? Because it has boosted the tertiary sector, right? It has boosted the tertiary sector. As a result, what has happened since the employment level has increased, so the people have improved their purchasing power, right? And as a result, what has happened that their standard of living rose. And when their standard of living rose, since they were employed, the production level also improved, right? So their earnings increased. When their earnings increase, their purchasing power improved. As a result, the standard of living rose. And when the production rose, the exports of goods and services rose, right? So the government was able to enjoy more of revenues. People spent. So it earned by way of both direct and indirect taxes as well, right? And then this government revenue was invested in the further development of infrastructure and other facilities, thereby enabling the government to achieve further of its macroeconomic objectives, right? However, you can also say that no, it was not that fruitful because it again gives a big question mark on its sustainable water use, and it raises questions on the long-term sustainability since it can also increase pollution level, and it can raise environmental concerns as well. Further, it has also caused differences in the inequality of the distribution of income. It could be that either it's only the foreign workers who are enjoying a rise in their income, or it could be that the disparity within the economy has widened. So in that case, it might not be that beneficial right? Further, you can say that luxury tourism can be seasonal and it is vulnerable to global economic downturns and pandemics, right? Which might reduce visitor numbers and income. So, if the country is overly dependent on tourism and finance, so it makes the economy more vulnerable to external shocks, right? So, this is how it might raise questions on in long term sustainability. So, the conclusion is that though, yes, it has brought in windfall advantages, causing it achieve economic growth and reducing the dependency on oil as a source of its foreign exchange. But the question of long term sustainability or the long term success depends on how it addresses the issues of income inequality and environmental sustainability, right? This is how you're going to conclude. Final part. H. Again, it's a discuss question. Again, it's a 6 marker. Again, you're going to follow the same way of answering the question like we did in part G. It's a discuss question. It's asking us discuss whether or not having a fixed exchange rate is beneficial for a country such as the UAE. So now if the country has a fixed exchange rate, would it be beneficial for the UAE? If you say yes, tell me why. If you say no, tell me why, and brush it off with a conclusion. So if it's a fixed exchange rate, what is a fixed exchange rate? A fixed exchange rate is one whose value is set at a particular level in terms of another currency or currencies. So if we say the UAE is pegged or fixed against the dollar, it could be beneficial. How? Such as if it is pegged against the US dollar, it brings in stability and certainty for businessmen and international investors. How? That an economy that relies heavily on international trade and foreign investment, a stable exchange rate would reduce currency fluctuation, right? And it would make it easier for businesses to plan and for investors to have confidence in the economy, right? So, as a result, what would happen? That imports consumer goods, if, and it would also enable the country to import consumer goods relatively easily, right? Because there are less fluctuations in the prices and caused by, since the exchange rate is pegged, right? As a result, there would be lesser changes in exports and imports prices, right? Further, what would happen that a stable exchange rate, since it's reducing currency fluctuations and making it easier for businesses to plan, it's also helping control imported inflation, right? Because there would be a fall in large price changes, thereby boosting investor confidence and increasing consumer confidence, right? And thereby, it's going to do what? It's going to increase foreign direct investment, thereby promoting economic growth. And if the UAE is looking to invest in things other than oil exports, going towards diversification, so it's going to boost diversification. Why? Because there's more certainty and there's more clarity, right? There's more stability in its exchange rate. However, you could say that a fixed exchange rate might not be that beneficial. Why? Because it might limit its flexibility. It might not easily adjust its exchange rate to economic shocks or changes in the global demand, right? It might not be easily able to respond to changes in the global economy, right? Uh, and therefore, it has to use its monetary policy by way of its money supply or interest rate to intervene, which means that it must be having sufficient foreign exchange reserves every time. It needs to monitor the exchange rate continuously by way of devaluing or revaluing its currency, right? In order to maintain that fixed exchange rate system and to maintain exchange rate at a low price. It could be that might be inflation might occur, right? So this means that other macroeconomic aims such as keeping inflation level at a certain level might not be able to achieve. So it might hamper the country's ability to achieve other macroeconomic aims, right? So how will you conclude it? You concluded that though a fixed exchange rate system brings in certainty, increases stability, promotes trade and investment, however, it reduces monetary policy flexibility. It would be beneficial as long as the country is able to manage the trade offs in an effective manner. This is how you are going to conclude this. I hope you all have understood and enjoyed solving this paper with me. We'll be back with more such questions. Stay tuned, share, subscribe. Happy learning.